Kazuchika Okada has left New Japan Pro Wrestling, and as of January 31st, he will depart from the promotion that he has given 10 plus years of his life for, becoming the ace in the process. And this was not under a future endeavored message. No, this is under his own admission. Even though Hiroshi Tanahashi may be the ace, quote unquote, of professional wrestling over in New Japan, in my opinion, it was Kazuchika Okada. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Heel Harrison, and after watching all the amazing YouTubers create professional wrestling content over the last year and seeing everything that has transpired, it inspired me to get onto YouTube and to bring you the best professional wrestling content possible. So, if you got the ears and the time, I've got the voice. Stick around, find out. That is right. Today we will be discussing Kazuchika Okada's decision to leave New Japan Pro Wrestling, the shocker of the year. Who would have thought? I mean, personally, I don't see anything topping that. I mean, I know we're only a few weeks into the new year, but my goodness, what a way to start this year with a banger. The big question, will Kazuchika Okada go to the WWE or will he go to AEW? Now, I just want to make one thing clear. No matter where this man goes, the tenure that he's had was one of arguably the best in recent memory. I mean, you can compare that to the best of all time. Seriously, this guy has put in his blood, sweat, and tears to give us great moments, breathtaking moments in professional wrestling. Had a 720-day reign as IWGP Heavyweight Champion. It doesn't get much better than that. So I just want to touch on this and say, for one, no matter where Kazuchika Okada ends up, I am going to be watching 100%. And at the end of the day, I want this man to be happy. He has given us so many moments, whether it be to CMLL, to TNA, a brand new TNA that has just now started back up. Even if he decides to start there and continue his, even if he decides to continue his career there, that will be just fine with me. But really, let's be honest, we're thinking AEW or the WWE. Here's where it can get a little controversial. We have to think about what has happened so far in AEW. We know that he has shown up in AEW. AEW has not really done so well when it comes to their presentation of stars. In fact, if he went from New Japan Pro Wrestling to AEW, the fans will know him and recognize him, and there'll be a pop, but it feels like he's just kind of going next door as opposed to the next block if he goes to WWE. The only thing that worries me here with Okada going to AEW, and this is where you're going to see where I weigh with this decision, is if he goes to AEW, he's going to have more of this just a transfer feel as opposed to going to the next block and being the new kid on the block. But there's going to be a big difference as to whether Okada goes to AEW or the WWE. I worry about Tony Khan's way of presenting him. Let's not forget some other names that he has worked with, such as the Bullet Club and Jay White. Jay White, I believe, was one of the last ones to have a major feud with Okada before he left New Japan last year. Jay White trading the belt back with Kazuchika Okada during 2022 and 2021, I believe. If I'm wrong, please go back and correct me. I'm just afraid that he's going to be kind of tucked away on Rampage for the most part. I mean, realistically thinking, how is Tony Khan going to treat Okada? Is he going to treat him like the super mega star that he is? Or is he going to be just stuck in a trios match with the Acclaimed on Rampage every week? Now imagine this. Okada, being the megastar that he is presented by WWE. And you know that so far, Triple H has done a wonderful, a magnificent job. It's went from the drizzling you-know-whats to some of the best stuff that WWE has produced since, hell, the mid-2000s. Not to mention that Okada's record in AEW, if we're going to be talking about rankings here, Okada is going to be dead last because going into AEW, not even being signed full-time, is an 0-3. That is absolutely mind-blowing to me. Now, as of late, the WWE has absolutely been killing it with their Japanese and just their international stars altogether. But the WWE could be giving out subliminal messages, in essence, rolling out the carpet for their Japanese professional wrestlers, Kairi Sane, Io Sky, Shinsuke Nakamura, which we'll talk about in just a second. For one, Okada's contract is up January 31st, I believe. Go back and correct me if I'm wrong. But that is going to obviously intercept him being available for the Royal Rumble. Now, of course, WWE could make a special collateral offer if you give us Okada these days before he ends up with his contract ending at the end of January. We will give you this later on. They could make that collateral offer, but the likelihood of that happening with everything as crowded as the main event is seen over in WWE, that likelihood I think is maybe on the lower end of the spectrum. Now, of course, it would be great if Okada showed up in the WWE at the Royal Rumble. That would be awesome. I mean, just imagine the pop that we could get with Kazuchika Okada in the same Royal Rumble as possibly John Cena, CM Punk, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar. My goodness, what a time to be alive as a professional wrestling fan. Now, I just want to make a quick side note concerning Jay White and his presentation so far in AEW. Now, if you remember last year, he had a somewhat great feud with MJF. However, I thought he rather came out of that feud looking a little weak. It was a very overbooked match, in my opinion. Some may say it was a great match. I could argue otherwise. I think it was, like I said, overbooked. The feud didn't really do much for Jay White. And like I said, this is coming from a Switchblade fan. I watched Jay White in the early days of Ring of Honor. I know Jay White. I know what he's capable of. And the way that match was booked didn't really do much for him. So I have to consider that thinking about Okada. Now, of course, some, of course, may argue that Okada is in a completely different league than Jay White is. But in my opinion, it doesn't matter because AEW could present Jay White like a megastar if he wants to really present the New Japan stars that he signs as stars. If Okada's going to be just stuck in these types of matches, like the one that Jay White was stuck in with MJF and the whole ambulance angle, and then MJF coming back halfway through the match or at the beginning of the match, stumbling out there, I think, what was it, with one arm or something like that. So you're sitting and telling me that after everything that Jay White has done in New Japan was like a killer in New Japan Pro Wrestling, can't be a one-armed MJF? Now, you could say that he could be definitely a top contender for Samoa Joe, now our new AEW World Champion. That may be a great place to put him. But then again, AEW has had rumors lately, or I think confirmation from Tony Khan, that the ranking system will be coming back. So we also have to consider that. Will Tony Khan just shoot him up to the top of the rankings? Is Okada going to work his way up in AEW? And there's been a lot of mixed emotions with this ranking system. So considering everything that's going on in AEW right now, all of the big movements that are happening and changes that Tony Khan is making to AEW, seemingly listening to us or his quote-unquote critics after he gets a little happy on Twitter with his Twitter fingers, as you know, we have to consider, is Okada coming into AEW the right call? Or should he kind of avoid AEW right now, let them figure out what they're going to do, and let them get into a comfortable spot, and, like I said, hop to the next block, as opposed to going just next door? Now, there was a time when the WWE was getting very stale, and I will tell you this, I was watching New Japan Pro Wrestling when my interest in professional wrestling as a whole was at an all-time low. When I discovered New Japan Pro Wrestling, the likes of Tetsuya Naito, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and all those guys, Shingo Takagi, it really reignited my interest in professional wrestling. So I have a very high regard for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Those guys are, to me, the serious ones. Those are the guys that are like the workhorses of the professional wrestling world. That is just my opinion. Of course, yes, there are other workhorses in other areas of professional wrestling, such as Bryan Danielson, Jay White, Adam Copeland now going into AEW, just continuing his legacy. Yes, I consider everything. Speaking of Adam Copeland, we all know that Tony Khan has a thing for nostalgia. Now, of course, we have got places in our hearts for nostalgia, but when it comes to professional wrestling, when you've got the guys like Jay White, Kazuchika Okada, the younger cats, MJF, you want to be presenting them and giving them more exposure as opposed to just bringing in guys that are in their 50s, such as Chris Jericho, Paul White, Edge, Adam Copeland now. Those types of guys are there to help the younger talent. However, Tony Khan has really stacked their presence up in AEW and has really, in my opinion, giving them spots that they don't really need. Enter Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, in the perspective from the WWE, here's how I would book Kazuchika Okada. Just imagine this. Raw after WrestleMania. Shinsuke Nakamura comes out and into the ring, cuts a promo about how he is the most successful Japanese professional wrestler to ever enter a WWE ring. How he's the only one that's going to succeed from here on out. He's going to take everybody out in his path. And then a spotlight drops down on Nakamura in the ring, and he looks around like he is not sure what's going on. But we then look up onto the ramp and see the Rainmaker in the Rainmaker pose with a spotlight on him, and a gold coin or a gold dollar, whichever one you could imagine here. You could just play around with this. Like I said, fantasy booking here. A gold coin or a gold dollar drops right next to Shinsuke Nakamura, and he realizes who he has on the horizon now in WWE. Something like that could happen. Of course, that could be more of a surprise way to go with the debut of Okada into the WWE. Or, like I said earlier, we could just have special vignettes building up Okada, announce that Okada has been signed by WWE. That way we can have a closer look, if you will, into Okada. Because we have to remember that there is a certain crowd, a certain percentage of the audience that's not going to really know who Okada is. Of course, me, I watch New Japan, AEW, Ring of Honor, the WWE. I know who Okada is, so of course, I'm going to be the first one to hop out of my seat if I see him on a Monday Night Raw stage, believe you me. But there are certain ways to come about this. Like I said, it could just be a transfer, just going next door feel if Okada goes to the AEW, as opposed to the new kid on the block feel for the WWE. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Where do you want to see Okada debut? In the WWE or in AEW? Or could he throw us a curveball and show up in Ring of Honor or in TNA? And since I am here new to YouTube, guys, just let me know down in the comments what you would like me to discuss going forward on this channel. Don't be afraid to let me know what you guys think, or anything from hot takes to quizzes. Let me know, and I'll be out there to give it to you. I want to thank you so much for your support. You are going to help feed this channel, and I will give back to you the best damn professional wrestling content that I can possible. Now, to all my fellow heels out there, I bid you adieu.